apologies. We have one leave of absence. Could we have a mover for Councillor Jim Hickey, Deputy Mayor, and provide the reason recreational leave from the report? Moved Councillor Allgate, seconded Councillor Page. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Call on Councillor Boland for the prayer.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Almighty God, we ask you to invoke your blessing upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement and true welfare of the people of the council area, our state and Australia. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Councillor Gallagher.
Yeah, we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet today, the land of the Winnicalli people, and pay our respect to those elders, past, present, and emerging.
Thank you. Councillor Jewett.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. We take time to reflect, remember and honour the over 800 miners that lost their lives and those that were crippled or maimed on the line of flow. We thank the brave miners and their wives who were part of the 1919 to 1920 strike that lasted over 500 days and delivered a 35-hour working week. Mining is our past and future.
Thank you. Item number 7 is the first public forum session. It is 15 minutes duration. It will consider submissions from the public regarding matters listed for consideration at this meeting and also on general matters. The public have been advised through notices in the Barrier Truth and Council's website to register by 4 p.m. today if they wish to address council during the public forum session. Members of the public who have registered to address council will be given preference, and then if time permits, anyone else present in the public gallery may address council. Speakers are allocated 2 minutes to address council. We have received one registration. Douglas Kopp, lack of aged care facilities available in Broken Hill. If I would like to go to the microphone. Just say your name for the record.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. My name is Douglas Kopp. I'd just like to bring it to council here an issue that's been made aware to me through personal reasons, and it's the aged care crisis here in Broken Hill. I'll give you a little bit of a rundown of how it came to me. First up is that my mother is currently, she was in respite in Aruma Lodge, being looked after very well by them, and they had managed to be able to extend her respite session while she was there for as long as they could. She was due to come out of respite last Monday. There were no more beds available at Aruma Lodge because they're the only ones that had beds that they can admit clients into. Even though we've got Southern Cross Homes out the south with Harold Williams House, and they've got over 30 beds that are vacant, but they're unable to be able to take any more clients due to the new legislation that's been posted with the requiring registered nurses to be on 24/7. So come Monday, Mum was going to be leaving Aruma Lodge. She couldn't come home because we could not look after her. She required 24-hour two-person care. And the only other option that's open to us is what a lot of other people have done, and is take her up to hospital for care, and where she stays until such time as a bed becomes available. Now, there's already 7 or 8 people up in the hospital now as we speak. They're in the same situation that we're going to be looking at. We were told on the Wednesday before the Monday that the hospital is in deadlock, that they were cancelling elective surgery, that they have no beds available. And if we were to bring Mum up on Monday, then the only option that they had was to be able to relocate her to Wilcannia or Adelaide. Long story short, the amount of stress and anguish and frustration that brings onto any family, it's just at a time when you're supposed to be looking after your aged, your parents as well, is insurmountable. I can't describe. Fortunately for us, in our case, Mum has been able to manage to find a bed, and she is currently in care and respite. However, this issue is still addressing the community. There is still going to be a community crisis. We haven't got any beds up at hospital. We haven't got any beds with aged care. And this is an issue that can be fixed because it was the Southern Cross Homes under the new legislation had a period of time to be able to find nursing staff so that they can open up and take clients on. It was under the modified Monash model that they were rated at a level 3. Now, I believe places in Sydney were 1 because it's easy to find staff and all the rest. Places like Alice Springs, isolated, rural, very similar to our own town, rated 6, had up to 12 months to be able to have to be able to modify, take on staff so that they could appease the legislation. Broken Hill under a level 3 is the same as Lithgow, Orange, Bathurst. If we can get Southern Cross Homes rated a level 6, they'll be able to open their beds. We'd take the pressure off the hospital. We'd be able to take the pressure off aged care in Broken Hill. And then another 6 or 12 months would give them the time to be able to find staffing, we'd hope. Staffing is a whole different issue. We've got a national shortage of healthcare workers throughout Australia. That's another issue the government's got to address. I'm bringing this to your attention, so I'm asking for your help to be able to push this matter up through your channels, up through to your leaders, to see if we can get this modified Monash model appraisal changed to a level 6 for Southern Cross Homes. This will open it all up. I've drafted a letter which shows our plight. I'm asking council also if they could be able to help distribute this letter. I've got it as a cover letter as well, with the email addresses of the Minister for Aged Care, the Shadow Minister for Aged Care, as well as Mark Poulton, Roy Butler, and also the MP himself. So that I'm asking that if people can come through to council and request the letter, the council will distribute it to them, and then they can post it on from there. It's only through community, the numbers in our community showing that this is an issue here and we need it addressed, is anything going to ever get done. Otherwise, we're just blowing in the wind.
That would be a problem, but no, so that's not a problem at all. Just some of the things you brought up, what going to an MM6 does allow is for on-call registered nurses as opposed to in-place registered nurses, and it's much higher patient ratios, which will then allow those beds to open. So it is really important. Port Lincoln, for example, was an MM4. It's just been reassigned an MM6, similar size to what we are. They all so much closer to capital or to other cities around that area. So they were able to do it. So that'll be one of the things we'll be using as an example of why we should be MM6. Alice Springs, as you mentioned, very similar thing. Look, as the mayor, and I'm sure everyone in this room, our heart goes out to you. As it was explained, one of the concerns when someone does end up in a nursing home, and particularly if they're in a nursing home with dementia, you want to be able to see them every day, because if you don't see them for a little while, before you know it, they forget who you are. And there's nothing more distressing for a family, a husband, a son, to go into a nursing home and be confronted with, who are you? So it really is really important that we do this and make sure that people that have lived in Broken Hill all their life, or not lived in Broken Hill all their life, but are able to finish their final days in the place they love with the people that are around them that love them. You certainly don't want them to be 200 Ks or 500 Ks from being able to visit. So we as a council will do all we can.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Cheers.
you, Doug. Other speakers? Yes, Mr. Cools, Bob? Just for the, just give your name when you come up as usual, Bob.
Bob Cools, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to bring up a subject which is not really, it's not a council problem, but through council, if they could, through their traffic committee, get onto the roads and traffic people. And I'm referring to the speed hump in William Street, up from Racco Street on the brow of the hill. It's absolutely atrocious. And I'm sure anybody that travels up and down William Street is aware that it's been there for many, many months. And we've got to have the only main highway in Australia with a speed hump in it. I believe it is a Roads and Traffic Authority's problem, but through council, through our roads and traffic people, could they please ride the state government to have something done about it? And if that doesn't work, go through our local member. He will always listen to problems.
you'll be happy to know that the RMS have approved the works for that finally, several months of trying from council. Finally got the approval, so that should be addressed really quite soon. It's certainly, on a speed
So
bump
they're-
up to
They're going to get council to fix the problem for them. Is that what you're saying?
funding it. Yeah, so council will be able to fix the issue.
Well, if it's a job that could be done in an hour, so
Yeah.
that'll be good if it's done.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for your time, Mr.
thank
Mayor.
you, Bob. Any other speakers? No, we'll move on to item number, just for everyone listening, there is a mayoral minute on the aged care, so councillors will get to comment on during that item. So I'm sure that there's plenty of people that would like to comment. Item number 8 is minutes for confirmation. Do we have a mover for that?
Move that way.
Moved councillor Gallagher, seconded councillor Chandler. Any speakers? No, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Disclosures of interest. We have any disclosures of interest?
Yes, I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
In the policy and general report number 178/23. Memory of understanding of financial assistance. I'm a member, I'm the president of the Silver City Cup Committee, and I'll be leaving the chamber when the decisions made.
No worries.
Sorry, that's non-pecuniary too.
Okay. Any other? No. Move on to mayoral minutes. Number 1 is Broken Hill Go-Kart Club Inc. The council provides immediate in-kind assistance to the Broken Hill Go-Kart Club Inc. to assist with the clearing and removal of weeds and vegetation from the Johnson Speedway go-kart track on the Menindee Road prior to the Karting Australian inspection. That the in-kind assistance consists of slasher machine, dump truck, and 2 operators for 1 day. Do you have a seconder for that?
Second.
Seconded councillor Jewett. Reason to move this was contacted by the Speedway Go-Kart Club. They are very keen to get that back operational. It's always been a good facility out there that has catered to different times to youth groups. It's a good opportunity for council to do what they can to help get that up and running. I know that recently they've had a working bee out there and probably done a fair bit of what needs to be done. But there's still an opportunity for council to help there. Do we have any other speakers? All those in favour? Declared carried. Item number 2 is the mayoral minute aged care crisis. The mayoral minute be received that council write to the Minister Aged Care, Sport, Annika Wells, Minister for Health and Aged Care, Mark Butler, Federal Member for Parks, Mark Coulton, Member for Barwon, Roy Butler, requesting that Broken Hills Aged Care Services be urgently reclassified to an MM6 under the modified Monash model. The council write to the Minister for Aged Care, Sport, Annika Wells, and Minister for Health and Aged Care, Mark Butler, requesting an urgent meeting with Southern Cross Care to discuss what immediate short-term financial and staffing support is available to ensure local aged care services do not face further reductions in service or closure. The council acknowledge and support the work being performed by Southern Care, Broken Hill and local Far West District locally in ensuring aged care is sustainable and begins to grow to ensure the city's valued elderly residents are not neglected and forced to leave their hometown in their old age. We have a seconder for that?
Second that.
Seconded councillor Allgate. You'd like to speak to it, councillor Allgate?
Mayor, just a comment, I'd like to sympathise with Mr. Koch. I had a short experience or exposure to aged care and nursing homes with my late wife. And even in good times, there was always a shortage of staff, and the care on occasions was perhaps not what the average person would want. But I just can't understand the logic that the government use when they talk about, the different levels of, the different time span with which this is introduced. Surely there is no, in New South Wales particularly, there is no more remote township than Broken Hill. We are the most remote. And we should be given the normal expectation of an extension of time so that those 20 or 30 beds at Southern Cross Care can be used, and so that the beds at the hospital can be freed up. I mean, it's common sense. No person wants their next of kin, their wife, or whatever, sent off to bloody Wilcannia or Mildura or Adelaide. It's just not on. Not at the stage where these patients or residents are. They need exposure to their kin, and if they're sent away, that's just like giving them a sentence. And I sympathise with anybody that's been in the same boat. And I think the council, we've taken some steps before, but I think we should continue. And ultimately, if need be, maybe there should be a deputation to the minister.
Thank you. And councillor Page?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the aged care system in Australia is an absolute disgrace. Hard-working people work their entire life, and when one member of the family becomes in need of an aged care bed, if you've worked hard and saved a few dollars, the federal government bleed your family dry. It's very unfair. The way the whole system works, the federal government should hang their head in shame. It's a bloody disgrace. People work a lifetime. When they, need the help, the federal government are not there. They've been lacking in this area for 20, 30 years. So I think we need to approach the federal government and say, look, you find money, huge amounts of money for foreign aid and all around the world, and you can't even look after your elderly. And it's not just now, it's been for the last 20, 30 years. It's a bloody disgrace. They have to restructure it. They have to make it fairer. Fair enough, the poor people don't have any money. Yes, they can go in there for not much cost, but the people that have worked hard, they bleed them dry, and it's unacceptable.
You're right. Councillor Gallagher?
Yeah, just if that Mayoral Medical were also sent to the shadow ministers in relation to this matter, because if one can't do it, the other one would certainly make noises in Parliament. And talking about remote, compare us to Alice Springs, they're lower than us. So at least Alice Springs has got a near international airport. They're what they can do there. And I believe that we should be level 6 so we can get these care for these elderly people.
Happy to add the shadow ministers. Councillor Turley?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And can I say the issue, I'm really concerned about 30 vacancies at Southern Cross Care, and also the fact that the hospitals discharging or transferring patients to Wilcannia. We've been down this path before, but I wonder, Mr. Mayor, if one of item 5, and I support Councillor Allgate's comments of having a delegation to Canberra to discuss this issue with the Minister for Health, but I wonder also if we could include inviting Southern Cross Care and the local Far West Health District to meet with Council to discuss a way forward, because there are other issues that are in front of us. And one of them is, for instance, I heard a presentation by the neighbouring health service that said they have 70 nurses that would be in Dubbo, Burke and those areas tomorrow, except for they're stuck in the, and they're from Ireland and other areas, they're stuck in the issue of migration workers. So we have an opportunity for workers to supplement our workforces in New South Wales, but the current government and before that have delayed the migration of workers to come into Australia. And it's not just delayed by a couple of months, we're talking about 2 years and more. So, so with the vacancies are also contributed to by that. We also have, if there are 30 vacancies and no staff at Southern Cross Care, what is this going to look like in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks? And how can we actually and that would add to a delegation going to Canberra. How can we add to that to ensure that Southern Cross Care and Local Far West Health District are actually on sync together? I mean, these are the parts that would add to the future and the way forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Turley. I'll just quickly respond to councillor Turley and then back to you, councillor Page. Definitely, General Manager will organise a meeting with those bodies. For the delegation, I'd first like to try and get these people out here. The reason I'd like to have those people out here, and even if it's shadow ministers as well, is so people understand when Mr. Koff was on the radio, on the telephone, trying to get a place for his mother. One of the comments was, can't you send her to the suburb next door? Now, if you've got people talking about the suburb next door to Broken Hill, they actually don't know what they're talking about. Mr. Koff was quick to say that, well, they're talking Mildura, it's 330 k's away. They were shocked to think that you'd have to travel 330 or to Wilcannia, which doesn't have the same facilities as what Broken Hill is 200 k's away. So it's a 400-kilometre round trip. So in the first instance, I'd really like to try and get the minister on, and I think the ministers may be open to come out to Broken Hill. They really need to see for themselves what the remoteness that Broken Hill has, because when they actually see that for themselves, I don't think would have any trouble getting them or convincing them to be an MM6 for Broken Hill. Councillor Page.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All the organisations that have been named here tonight are part of our working group. Mr. Nankerville, Senior, he was part of the last meeting, and he's promised to come along in person to the next meeting of our ageing elderly people and bring some of his workforce. So everyone's working together at the moment. So I just thought I'd let you know that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Page. So I'd just like to say that 20 to 30 beds, possibly more, but there's around 10 spots in the hospital taken up currently from people that should be in aged care facilities. What that does to a city, especially when a hospital doesn't have enough beds for our population as it stands. That hospital was built with a guess or a prediction that our population was going to go down somewhere between 12 and 14,000. So we've got a hospital that's not of the size that's adequate for our population anyway. When you only have just under 90 beds in the hospital, 10 of those are used, that's over 10%. So over 10% of our beds are being used for a purpose that it's not designed for. That is already having the impact on the community, where people in Adelaide that are waiting to come back to Broken Hill to be at our local hospital are staying there longer because there's actually nowhere to put the patients when they come to Broken Hill. In-house care, that's one that the government's been pushing for, and it's a great theory and the way that it would work, and that was to keep people in their homes. It's completely inadequate and does not provide the level of care that is needed for someone who is almost or at the level of needing to go into an aged care facility. 487 visas are really important. They're the visas for skilled workers. They're at least about another 4 to 6 months away before they'll be able to come. The problem with those 487 visas, they're then meant for regional Australia, but the problem is most areas are filled up in big cities first, and unfortunately a lot of the regional areas now are considered places like Wollongong, Newcastle, Geelong, hardly regional, but a lot of those visa workers will take placement in those areas well before they come out to Broken Hill. Another big concern is when it does all open up, because there is such a shortage in our health system as well. Our hospital is also after registered nurses. Those registered nurses are likely to go to the hospital, which is in a lot of viewed widely by registered nurses as a better place to work than in the aged care. So the aged care is still a long way away from filling those positions. That's why it's so important that we do get to a level 6 it'll allow us as a community and allow the facilities to get extra funding. There's a shortage of funding. Nurses are being paid to go to those facilities up through providers up to 50% in addition to what it would be normally to pay those wages. So it's putting the long-term viability of those organisations at risk. There's currently 170 people that are patients or residents of those aged care facilities. And if those facilities were to close from a lack of financial viability because they are unable to fill the 30 or to 40 beds that are there to keep it viable, we could end up with a real aged care crisis where our facilities close and there's suddenly 170 extra residents looking for placement. The government, and this is where I'm thankful, we've looked like our trades hall will be World Heritage listed. We have a Labor Council. We are a Labor government, both state and federal. We are a union town, and people need to remember in the government when we speak to them, the people that are in their 80s, 90s and 100s that are in our aged care facilities helped build this nation. Councillor Page made it quite clear. It's very important that we look after the elderly. These are the people that built Australia. People need to remember that Broken Hill paid for our World War I and World II war efforts. And I hope that the ministers acknowledge this and make sure that we can continue to keep our elderly residents here in Broken Hill where they can live out their days. Thank you. Any other speakers?
I'll just make a
Yes,
quick
Councillor Boland.
thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Just continuing on from your comments around skilled migration, as well as Councillor Turley's comments around skilled migration. This is an area that's sometimes missed that's very important to fill the shortages. I've got a lot of experience with the skilled migration system through my day job in hospitality. But it's quite expensive and a difficult process. So when you come out as a skilled in the skilled migration program to regional areas, you have to pay for your own healthcare. If you bring your children out, you have to pay for public schooling near private school levels. I've got a couple of skilled migration workers that I pay their school fees. They're $6,000 a term. It's difficult for partners to get jobs. And it's also difficult because they're new to the nation, to the country. It's also difficult for them to get accommodation, as in rentals, because they've got no references in Australia. So I think the government also needs to look at making skilled migration easier for the people that we desperately need their skills. It's ridiculous that they've got to pay $400 a month for private health cover, $6,000 a term per child, just to put them in the school. So the government really needs to look at this as well if we're going to address the skill shortages that we're seeing across the nation in several industries, including healthcare.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Interesting point. So New South Wales has been behind the other states as far as a lot of that goes, and it's actually a lot easier for those visa workers to transition into the other states, South Australia, Queensland, etc. New South Wales actually brought on or is now looking to go to making those visas easier to try and get people out into regional New South Wales. So hopefully that at some stage does help with that. Councillor Allgate.
I'll just comment on the visa situation. It was mentioned on the news going back about 3 weeks ago that the Home Affairs Department of Government, they've got a backlog of about slightly in excess of 1 million visa applications.
Right. Thank you. So there could be a resolution in the future. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Move on to item number 3, mayoral minute, resources for regions, that the mayoral minute dated September be received, that council writes to the New South Wales Premier Chris Minns, Minister for Regional New South Wales and Western New South Wales, Tara Moriarty, and member for Barwon, Roy Butler, requesting that mining communities receive funding priority under the Regional Development Trust and Working Regions Fund. This is another important, could we have a seconder for that? Councillor Gallagher. It's another important thing that we need to do. The resources of regions is to fund mining communities. There has been a new fund that has been developed, which has $350 million Regional Development Trust and 250 million Working Regions Fund. However, Broken Hill will be subject to increased competition for this funding. Remembering that some of the areas that this probably includes are areas that are very close to Sydney, which will get maybe a lion's share. What's really important is that Broken Hill and the other mining communities do continue to be funded, remembering that it is forecast that 13.2 billion in mining royalties will go to the New South Wales government over the next 4 years. What we face that many communities don't face is a boom bust scenario where while mining's going well, there's plenty of money around. While it's going bad, people leave town. It's fine that hard to get here. What this has done in the past is allowed communities like Broken Hill to continue to invest in their communities because of that fund. I would hope that the New South Wales Labor government acknowledges the importance of the mining communities to the New South Wales government, and there is still a priority given to those 26 councils or 26 communities when they go for funding under the new system, because without that, many of the things that we've been doing over the past 10 years or so will be put in jeopardy. Any other speakers? Councillor Brown.
Just a suggestion, Mr. Mayor. I would suggest that correspondence also be sent to the Honourable Stephen Lawrence, who will be the Labor duty member for Barwon. And I know he has a very strong interest, being based in Dubbo, in budget matters and funding for the Far West. So I'll suggest you add him to your list.
We'll add that. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I just have a verbal mayoral minute that mayoral dated 27/09/2023, that the mayoral minute dated 27/09/23 be received, that council provides a letter of appreciation to Kay Lee and Cindy from Live Better and to Dale Dwyer from the hospital for their efforts to provide transport for Kim Gasnier from his hospital bed to his home. Without their intervention, Kim would have been in hospital until a bariatric ambulance was available in November. The council sends correspondence to the appropriate ministers and local member Roy Butler, and also Steve again, Councillor Brown, informing them that a bariatric transport is still needed in Broken Hill. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Turley?
No, Mr. Mayor, because you mentioned Live Better, I'll just declare non-pecuniary conflict of interest in this motion. I'll remain in the chambers. Just my son works for Live Better.
Okay. No worries. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Boland. The reason I moved this is these people went above and beyond to make sure that Mr. Gasnier was able to leave the hospital. They were given information when contacting the ambulance service and also the hospital transport that he would be in hospital until at least November this year. Completely unacceptable for anyone to be in hospital for months because they're unable to get home, because there is no service that provides for large, well, particularly very big people. So what these members did was they were able to use the Live Better bus and they were able to get him out of hospital and get him home. So we really need to acknowledge and appreciate people when they go beyond and above.
Sorry, can I just
Councillor
also declare, same as Councillor Turley, a non-pecuniary interest as my daughter works for Live Better.
Oh, okay. No worries. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We have nil notices of motion, nil rescission motions, nil reports from delegates. We move on to item number 14, Health and Building Committee reports. Item number 1 is rescission of minute number 458008 of the Warnock Street acquisition. We have a mover for that.
Move that way.
Councillor Gallagher,
Seconded.
Councillor Allgate, Councillor Gallagher, speak to that.
No, it's all in the report, Mayor Kennedy.
Any other speakers? No. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2 is the proposed section 3.2 amendment of the Broken Hill Local Environmental Plan 2013, rezoning of part lot deposition plan 11751353336A McCulloch Street. Do we have a mover for that? Move Councillor Gallagher, seconded Councillor Turley. Councillor Gallagher.
No, once again, Mayor Kennedy, it's all in the report.
No, whereas any speakers? No, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. We move on to B, Policy and General Committee. Item number 1 is annual fees for mayor and councillors. We have a move for that.
Move that way, move as written.
Moved as written.
Seconded.
We have a second for that.
Seconded.
Councillor Allgate, you want to speak to that, Councillor Boland?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I think the community has spoken loud and clear that we're all suffering under the cost of living crisis that, as I said, we're all experiencing, and they wouldn't like to see council fees increase, and I 100% support the community's views on that. Certainly didn't put my hand up to be elected to set the world on fire in a financial way. You do it to serve your community, and you're proud to do it. And I'm also proud to take on the community's recommendations on this and keep our councillor fees as they are for the coming year.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Turley?
Mr. Mayor, can we get a copy of the survey results?
Yeah, is it in the report? Yeah, sure.
Yep.
All those, Councillor Allgate?
Oh, just agree with what Councillor Boland has said. If you're here for the money, you're here for the wrong reason. We should be serving the community, and the money should be of much lesser importance.
Look, I expected a result similar to this. People don't like to give out money, as has been said before by different councillors. The tribunal moves the amount of money. This is a council decision, and councillors usually choose not to have the increase anyway. This was more about giving the community involvement in a decision. It's not something that council has to do, it's something that this council wanted to do. The vote was not to accept it before this. This was purely based on giving the community input into a decision that I think enhances council's image. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2, endorsement of display format for councillors' meeting briefing attendance in draft 2023 annual report. We have a mover for that.
Move that.
Councillor Allgate, seconded.
Second.
Councillor Jewett. Councillor Allgate, you want to speak to that?
Not really. It's just to meet the requirements, and it outlines a lot about what council does. Transparency is very important.
Thank you. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3 is public interest disclosures annual report. Do we have a mover for that? Move Councillor Gallagher, seconded. Councillor Boland, Councillor Gallagher.
No, Mayor Kennedy.
All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 4 is draft annual financial statements for September. Have a mover for that? Councillor
Move that way.
Boland, seconded.
They're gonna,
Councillor Allgate, Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Looking over the report, very well done. Council's finance team needs to be congratulated. There's a lot of pressure on right now in all business, in all areas. There's a lot of pressure on the expense line, both in people's personal life and obviously councils as well, and as a lot of other businesses. So the team really needs to be congratulated on maintaining or limiting expenses or well-controlled expenses. And I believe Councillor Allgate was saying that when some people are up for from Sydney regarding council grants, this council was congratulated on being one of the best councils to manage those grants. And obviously we see that in our financial reports, and we've got a lot of projects on the way that will benefit the community and make the town even better.
Thank you. Yes, so the Financial Assistance Grant Commission recognised that Broken Hill City Council is one of only a small number of councils in New South Wales whose finances are being well managed during current financial climate, and that councillors and council staff should be congratulated on their management of council's finances. That's a really big statement. So you have much bigger councils all through New South Wales. The Commission took the time to acknowledge that Broken Hill is one of only a small number of New South Wales councils that have been doing a good job since the COVID period. So well done. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 5 is budget carryovers for 2023. Councillor Boland, seconded. Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Boland.
Get the right button. Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Again, there's a few carryovers that it's been difficult in any business, again, if you're doing capital projects, labour shortages, parts shortages, that kind of stuff. So again, the team needs to be congratulated on only $399,000 or $399,000 in budget carryovers, and I'm sure the projects will be delivered shortly, and looking forward to seeing them. And then also our forward budgets for the projects in the works. There's a lot of exciting projects there. Obviously, our library, the O'Neill complex redevelopment, and an important one for the city going forward is, of course, that upgrade to the airport taxiway and apron, which will be discussed later in business when I believe the airport master plan will be voted on. But there's a lot of exciting projects listed there that will make the city better. And again, the team needs to be congratulated managing their costs and keeping those budget carryovers to a minimum in what is a very difficult trading environment right now worldwide.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Turley.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just the 41 million for the carryover for budget items. I'm just curious, well, not curious, I'm just concerned about the increase of cost for all those projects over the next 12 months, as we've seen with supply of materials. Has there been consideration about the risk of that increase?
Yes, there has, but I'll pass over to the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yes, that has been accounted for in there, and that is why we have got a large list of carryovers to make sure that we're rescoping and ensuring those projects maintain within that budget. And one of the main ones there, which councillors are well aware of, is the library carryover of $14.5 million. Obviously, if those costs hadn't have increased over the last couple of years, we would have been well and truly underway with that project. But we have been able to lock those contracts in, along with the CBD redevelopment and our larger ones. So those contracts are in place, which has taken us a little bit of time to rescope and renegotiate a lot of those projects moving forward, but they aren't as such at risk, but their overall scope is going to be impacted along the way as we go through this continued period of inflation. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, some really good projects that will start to come to fruition in the next number of months. Also, I will mention this because the O'Neill Park tennis court lighting upgrade, which will be out to tender in the next couple of weeks, or already out. So that'll be settled in the next couple of weeks. So everyone down at the tennis will be very happy with that.
Clarification, Mr. Mayor. Are you a champion tennis player?
No, I'm an average tennis player. We're about average in this room, aren't we? Yeah, average, okay. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Move on to item number 6 is the investment report. Move councillor Boland, seconded councillor Gallagher, councillor Boland.
I'll just say the report is good, and I'll leave it at that instead of going for the trifecta.
No worries. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 7 is the race. Councillor Gallagher declared a non-pecuniary interest. Memorandum of Understanding Financial Assistance to the Silver City Cup Race Committee. Do we have a move for
Happy
that?
to move that way, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Turley, seconded councillor Chandler, councillor Turley.
And Mr Mayor, we continue to support this as in kind and think it's a good way forward for the community, and certainly Silver City Cup is one of the longest racing events in regional racing events in New South Wales. It has a special state in our community, and think that we should continue to support this.
For sure. Any other speakers? Councillor Jewett? No, no. Yeah, look, it's a really important one. We have the chairman of the Silver City Cup Race Committee. Really good to, as a council, to continue to contribute to events that bring people into the city and keep Broken Hill a lively place. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Yeah, Simon's Manager of Finance. Passed as written, councillor Gallagher. Item number 8 is the minutes of the 355 Ageing Well Advisory Committee.
Move the
Meeting.
recommendations.
Move councillor Allgate, seconded councillor Chandler, councillor Allgate.
Well, as you suggested in your mayoral minute and Mr. Coff's comments, and also councillor Page, there is a crisis in Broken Hill, and in some way or other, we've got to get on top of it, and we need the government to respond promptly. And the council's ageing committee is working well, but we have a problem, as we've discussed at committee level, with attendances, and we need to have we need to be able to attract more of the service providers so that the committee can get an idea of exactly who does what and when, rather than duplication of services and whatever. There seems to be a bit of secrecy, perhaps on some parts of the providers, because they want to keep everything to themselves. But I mean, we need to share all that information so that we can see where the community can have input. Small things, it's like I think at the meeting before last, who cooks the meals? Why isn't the Bushview Cottage operating? Things like that. Nobody knows. Nobody at the committee knows. We're getting some feedback now, but I mean, this committee might be, I think, will be productive once we get all the participants together. I'm sure councillor Page might add to it.
Councillor Page.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I've already had a lot of comments. I have made a lot of comments tonight in regard to aged care, and what I've seen over the last 40 years, the federal government have not made any changes to the benefit of the elderly people of this country. So I don't know what to do next. We know what the problems are. Councillor Allgate, Councillor Gallagher on the committee, and the things that should already be done, they're not getting done. So what the answer is, whether the whole nation stands up and says to the federal people, this is not good enough, we elect you in there to do the job and you're not doing it. The comments that we make and the effort that we put in, what the people care about, it's falling on deaf ears federally. So whether Councillor Allgate's got whether we have a protest march in Canberra, something's got to be done. This has been going on too long. I know your situation, what you went through a lot, and a lot of other people as we're getting older, and I'm one of them. I don't want to go into a nursing home, but a lot of people have to go in there, and I think it's a bloody disgrace, and this council need to speak out loud, whether we organise a protest march down in Canberra. When's the next meeting in Canberra, Mr Mayor?
After the vote, the referendum. They're back in Parliament after that date.
Well, have a think about it, Mr Mayor, and I think everyone would be grateful if we could show the leadership we've always shown. This small town has always fought on behalf of other people, and I'm quite sure we can do that in the future. Everyone will rally with us. So,
Without a doubt.
Yep.
I think if the matter isn't resolved, it will take protest marches without a doubt. At the moment, we are definitely trying to get them to change that MM6 to try and resolve and open up those beds. I have no doubt as a community, if those beds aren't opened pretty quickly, there will be protest marches down particularly our own streets. And I'm sure it will have no problem for it being led by council. For a city to be truly livable city, we have to make sure we cater from services to birth to ageing in place. If elderly residents have to leave home, it gives no confidence to young people to move here, because no one wants to be in a city where their elderly parents or grandparents can't grow old and be at residence that they can visit. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 9 is minutes of the Audit and Risk Improvement Committee meeting held in August. Do we have a mover for that?
I'll move that way.
Councillor Boland, seconded
Seconded.
Councillor Allgate. Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. This is another area where Broken Hills led the way. We're one of the first councils to implement a audit and risk and improvement committee. And again, lots of subjects have been discussed to make sure councils all over their audit and risk and their corporate governance. So again, similar to the grants, this is one area where Broken Hill City Council, 1,100 kilometres away from the big councils in Sydney, is leading the way across the state.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We move on to further reports. Item number 1 is correspondence report, damaging increase in emergency service levies costs. We have a mover for that. Move Councillor Chandler, seconded Councillor Boland. Councillor Chandler, you'd like to speak to that?
I think it should be up there on the government. I've taken their responsibility.
Just pull your microphone a bit closer. Yeah,
Sorry.
no, that's better.
Yeah. No, I don't think the government's serious and they're overloading us with the taxes we shouldn't have to pay that they organise.
Sure. Councillor Turley.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I didn't realise that we as local government New South Wales hadn't responded to council, so I'll follow that up. But can I say that my understanding is that Minister Honig, the Minister for Local Government, has in fact asked for a financial review and has asked IPART to look at financial sustainability of local government, and that the Treasurer has given an understanding that we won't be in the same position next year. My concern is that looking at the current budget that was delivered last week by this government, that the emergency service levy supplementation wasn't included. So we're quite concerned about how this will pan out next year. But just to say, the letter that we received didn't really pose a question. It just asked to continue to do work, but we'll provide an update.
Thank you, Councillor Turley. Any other speakers? Councillor Allgate.
I'd just comment that as far as I'm concerned, this is just fundamentally wrong, these decisions. To expect a council that has got limited resources to after the setting of a budget and all the work that goes into setting a budget, to then have to turn around and find in excess of $200,000 is just bullshit. It really is. It's a government that doesn't understand at a local level how councils operate financially. You just can't put your hand on $200,000, and we weren't hit as bad as some other councils. So I think it's just an insult. The whole thing's an insult.
Yes. Look, without a doubt, there's been a number of cost shifting from state and federal governments by both political parties. So it's not one or the other. And I think that really is what it goes down to. So the Honourable Ron Honig MP has responded to us, and I think where he's coming from is some of the other councils that are flush for funds and can't understand why they're not contributing more. The problem is that also impacts councils like Broken Hill Council and other Western Division councils. The Honourable Ron Honig made it quite clear some of the all the Western Division councils reinvigorated his belief in local government and how well we operated as councils out in this area with the limited resources. So I hope that he takes on board the sentiments that you made, that we work really hard to keep our budgets at a level that keeps our communities sustainable. Very difficult. In Central Darling Shire, it's almost impossible. But again, they're still trying to keep their councils financially viable. These extra hits mean that somewhere else a service has to be reduced, and that's what happens to our regional councils. May not happen in Sydney. They collect more in fines than what we collect in our entire budget. So it's nothing for them to fork over $1 million, $2 million extra. They just increase their fine revenue. But for us out here, we don't hit our community up every time we're hit with extra money. What we have to do is find extra savings, and they're often done by finding extra money within the service, but at some point you can only cut it so thin before you start having to reduce your service. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2, correspondence 60 days spent dispensing of PBS medicines. We have a mover for that. Councillor Chandler, seconded Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Chandler.
I think the financial implications on the pensioner are feeling it. They're only the minor changes and the later opening times of the chemist and the earlier closing times. But Broken Hill people are feeling it.
Yep. So what the result of that was, and it was made quite clear by the pharmacists at the time, that any reduction in income from the PBS going from 30 to 60 days would result in reduction in staff, reduction in operating hours. And as we've probably all also heard, their Webster packs went up in price. That is because they are getting less funding from the PBS, save the government a lot of money. Ultimately, it won't save the community that much money, and it's already had an impact on our community and the services provided, and that affects the people that they said it would affect most, and that's the people on lower incomes. Councillor Gallagher.
Yes, Mayor Kent, is echoing what you said. What we said at the Council chamber is exactly what happened. It's going to reduce services, reduce staff time, reduce employment. It's going to make the people who need medication, that is going to cost them a lot more. They may have to go to the pharmacy as much. The situation is the pharmacies are there in the country areas for many, many years as a place where they can go to get services on a weekend, on an afternoon, at night when they finish work. I think it's ludicrous what they've done. Exactly what was said was going to happen has happened.
Yes, and a lot of the time when they go to get their medicines, there's a shortage of medicines, so they're going there more than once anyway. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Everyone voted unanimous? Yeah.
It's just receiving the correspondence.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Item number 3, correspondence report, suspension of regional seniors travel card. We have a mover for that.
Move that.
Move Councillor Allgate, seconded. Councillor Jewett. Councillor Page, you want to speak to that? No. Councillor Allgate.
only to say that this is another cost-cutting exercise. The reason given that the cards are being used for other things than travel. I'm not sure that that's the case, but I have a card. The thing is that for remote communities like Broken Hill, where so many of us go to Adelaide or Mildura for medical treatment and whatever, or for a break, with fuel costs the way they are, and without this $250 assistance, it just makes it that much harder. But you know, it's government's cutting costs all the time, and we are the ones that suffer.
Yeah, councillor Page.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm not complaining, but they gave me a card and within 5 minutes they took it back off me.
Yeah.
So that shows what you're dealing with these state and federal politicians. It's all about cost shifting. Years ago, we used to have 2.9% of GDP. Now we don't even have 1%.
0.5%.
How can councils in the outback financially survive? They're torturing us by keeping our funding low, and then the people living in the outback give them a pension card and take it back off them. So that's the attitude.
It's exactly what's happening. The correspondence sent through by the Parliament Secretary of Roads, Parliament Secretary of Regional Transport and Roads, mentioned the senior pensioners fare on Opal enabled services, access to regional excursion daily ticket on local bus services. I didn't even take the time to find out that Broken Hill doesn't have a lot of the services that are mentioned. The reason that we wrote off was the importance of the seniors travel card to Broken Hill specifically, and how it was used for taxi services and other travel services, and was vitally important to many people in Broken Hill. Very disappointed in the response that it virtually spoke about a lot of the areas that have easy community public transport, areas where there is already concessions in place. Broken Hill doesn't have a lot of that. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 4, childcare in Broken Hill, correspondence. Do we have a mover for that? Moved councillor Chandler, seconded councillor Allgate. Councillor Chandler. Your microphone's not on.
I went to the meeting down there at Oxide Street, and I think everything's in hand to a certain extent. There's been a few untruths told, and I think the people involved are all working to try and sort it out.
Thank you, councillor Chandler. So that is correspondence, and the government does understand the importance of childcare as a whole across the state and the country, but now they're more aware of what's happening in Broken Hill specifically. Councillor Allgate.
I'd just like to comment in general terms. I agree with Councillor Chandler. The visit with the General Manager and others to the Oxide Street Childcare Administration Centre was interesting the other day, but it's disappointing that the last council meeting, from my perspective, was rather disappointing, where it was basically broadly insinuated that the council was doing little towards childcare, when in fact, ever since this new council has been elected.
And I'll go even prior, credit where credit's due, the previous council was hot on childcare as well.
Yeah, exactly. But the council has been involved in pursuing and fostering and promoting and doing everything it can to make sure that childcare is up to scratch. We've got a long way to go. If in fact Horson's mine kicks off and Cobalt Blue get their extra employees, it's serious. It's another crisis situation in terms of childcare. If we want to keep workers in town rather than fly in, fly out, one of the key things that we've been talking about is the need for increased childcare. And as bad as things look, I think there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel based on what's been said in recent times.
Councillor Page.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to make a very small comment. The people that live in Broken Hill, this issue does affect their lifestyle and whatever. But we have people that come to Broken Hill, still have a family that are not here, and they can't bring their family here because they can't get access to childcare. So it's a big issue, and let's hope we can help solve the problem.
For sure. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 5 is the election of deputy mayor. Do we have a mover for the recommendations? 1 to 7.
Move
Move
the
councillor Chandler,
recommendation.
second councillor Gallagher. Councillor Chandler, speak to that.
Yeah,
It's just about moving the recommendation, and then we'll hand over to the general manager as election of as returning officer.
no, I just think it's the way it's stuff.
Yep, happy with that. Yeah. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. It's for the election of deputy mayor. I'll now hand over to the returning officer, council's general manager, Mr. Nankivell, who will conduct the deputy mayor elections.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. As returning officer, I advise that one nomination has been received for the position of deputy mayor. Nomination received was for councillor Hickley, nominated by councillor Chandler and councillor Allgate. Nomination was received on the 27th of September 2023 at 6 p.m. Councillor Hickey has provided written advice that he accepts the nomination. I now call for any further nominations to be submitted prior to the ballot being conducted. If there's any other further nominations or verbal nominations from councillors? No. As councillor Hickey's nomination for deputy mayor is uncontested, I declare councillor Hickey re-elected as deputy mayor for the period of 27th September 2023 until the September 2024 local government election. Congratulations, councillor Hickey, on your re-election as deputy mayor.
You'd be watching. Thank you, general manager. Move on to item number 6. Appointment of delegates to the committee's September 2023 to September 2024 local government elections and proposed disbandment of the Community Roundtable Committee. We have a mover for that.
Move that way.
Seconder,
Seconded.
move councillor Boland, seconded councillor Allgate. Just before we put it, is everyone happy with the positions on those committees? Councillor Turley?
Oh, no, I'm happy with them, but just, it says we have new methods of engagement and consultation. Can we get an outline? I don't think we've been invited as councillors to the business sector meetings or government, some of the government sector. So can we just get an outline of some of those meeting, these new engagement models?
Yep, no problem, councillor Turley. Yeah. Any other comments?
Just item, I think it was item 3, there was a vacancy on the Murray Darling Association, the fill by the position vacated by councillor Allgate.
All right. Anyone like to be the alternate? Councillor Turley? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 7 is council to determine the number of councillors for the 24-28 term of council. Do we have a mover for that? That's to keep the numbers as are.
I'll move the recommendation.
Councillor Gallagher, seconded councillor Turley. Councillor Gallagher?
No, it's all in the report there. 10 councillors, 9 plus the mayor is adequate for the city of Broken Hill.
Yeah. Look, councillor Page, myself, councillor Turley and councillor Brown, councillor Allgate were part of the council when there was 12. 12 did spread out the numbers better, but that might be one for councils to think about in the future. I certainly would not ever endorse going lower in numbers. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 8 is the Civic Centre Ombudsman's costs. We have a mover, councillor Allgate,
Move it.
seconded. Councillor Chandler, councillor Allgate.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. Yes, I'd love to comment on this particular matter. And I've written out a few things. The legal costs incurred by the council in defending the council and the then GM, James Roncon and Mayor Turley, amounted to $1.348 million with a final cost to the community of $830,345 after receiving an offset from the council's insurers of $517,668. But we must remember that because the councils have kicked the tin, they don't give away anything for nothing. So probably in terms of premiums next time round, they'll be dearer. From the very beginning, it was clear that the council was in a losing position in this situation because the law had clearly been broken by the GM, James Roncon, and the then Mayor Daria Turley in allowing 2 large functions to be held at the Civic Centre when a certificate of current.
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
Yes, councillor Turley.
The council is making allegations against me personally. It actually was the allegation against the general manager.
Yes, so the allegation was against the general manager. It's fine if you continue without councillor Turley. You can say that at the time the mayor was councillor Turley, but not in the report itself.
Can I say, Mr. Mayor, that in the absence of a council meeting, the mayor makes the decisions.
Yep, that's totally fine, and you can say that. But councillor Turley's complaint was in the report itself. There was no wrongdoing found by councillor Turley herself. Yeah.
Start again. From the very beginning, it was clear that the council was in a losing position because the law had clearly been broken by the then GM, James Roncon, and the council. In terms of allowing 2 large functions to be held at the Civic Centre when a certificate of occupancy had not been issued and hundreds of ongoing construction faults had not been rectified. There was also another matter where the GM cancelled the Civic Centre audio-visual contract and let almost the same contract to another entity without calling tenders for more than double the price without involving the elected council in the decision, and it was a cost of something like $600,000. The Ombudsman's 70-page investigation report was very critical of the then general manager's role in knowingly allowing the facility to be used for large functions, and was critical in allowing this to occur. The council was critical of the council in allowing this to occur. The Ombudsman sought submissions from individual councillors, but Mayor Turley said she would respond on behalf of the council, and I feel for obvious reasons. After all, the decision in respect to the matters associated with the Civic Centre upgrade were decisions made by the Labor majority, with 2 councillors, councillors Kennedy and Allgate, voting against at all times. Notwithstanding Mayor Turley's stance, Councillor Allgate and Councillor Kennedy submitted a joint 8-page factual submission to the Ombudsman, refuting much of the information provided by Mr. Roncon and Mayor Turley. Worse still, Mayor Turley's submission to the Ombudsman basically supported the General Manager, knowing full well that the General Manager and by default the Council had clearly broken the law and had potentially put those using the Civic Centre at great risk. For instance, there was no fire service in operation. There would have been no insurance cover had somebody injured themselves because we didn't have an certificate of occupation. The Ombudsman report outlined serious issues that needed to be considered. One very important item was a question: what action is the council going to take in respect to the General Manager's actions? There was no action basically taken at all by the council. The GM continued on as normal as a result of the council's inaction. A short time after this debacle, the General Manager's Performance Review Panel was to meet, comprising of local councillors, and at that review, the General Manager was awarded a better than average performance for the previous 12 months when all these civic centre matters occurred. And as a result, he received an increase in salary. While the community has lost $830,000 in this instance, that loss pales into insignificance when compared to the civic centre upgrade legal costs, which are still confidential at this point in time. As a councillor who voted against all of the increases in legal fees time after time at briefings, I am disappointed that the community has lost 830,000 and perhaps more by the time the whole thing's finished. In terms of the civic centre itself, it's an absolute fiasco, and it should be an embarrassment to the Labor Council that moved the motions to do exactly what has happened.
Thank you, councillor Allgate. Further speakers? I'd just like to make a brief comment. Look, 830,000, we're lucky to get back the money we got back. It was always the wrong decision. The Ombudsman made it quite clear the council was in breach. Council could have taken responsibility for that. There would have been no ramifications from the Ombudsman. They made that Ombudsman's office, they made it quite clear. All we had to do was take responsibility, nil cost to council. Thankfully, our legal people did pay out some money towards the cost, because if they hadn't, it would have been near $1.5 million. A lot of money to be paid out of community money to fight a case that had no chance of winning, a case that there was no ramifications other than admitting what was obviously a breach of the regulations. Could have been sorted out really easily and moved on. Instead, it cost a lot of money, caused a lot of heartache for the community and councillors involved, and it's a sad and sorry affair that we can all move on from, but one that needed to be exposed into the community. Thank you. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 9 is the draft Broken Hill Airport Master Plan for public exhibition. Do we have a mover for that?
Move that way.
Councillor Boland, seconded Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I was at the briefing the other week, and it was a very well put together report, and I believe the airport is one of the most important assets to the city. It's our gateway into the city for visitors and people that need to come here for work. It's also an entry and exit point for people that want to live in Broken Hill but want to head home and visit family on the coast, etc. I frequent the airport quite a lot, and I talk to the airport staff quite a lot, and it's in desperate need for an upgrade, and this is the way to go about it. It's the first step, first public step that's been happening in the background for a lot of years. But getting this airport right and getting it to a standard that this city deserves is certainly important, and it will again increase the livability of Broken Hill and assist in attracting people to live in our wonderful city, especially when they can head home to the coast for weekends away, which we can achieve if we have a fully renovated or a full airport that can take the bigger planes and more competition, etc., and put downward pressure on costs of flights. So looking forward to this going on public exhibition.
Thank you. Councillor Turling.
Mr. Mayor, I absolutely welcome this draft plan for public exhibition. I'd be interested to see are we going to run any focus groups with, you know, the different mining industries and business and other community health and that to get their feedback?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yes, that's been all part of the consultation process with the focus groups, and particularly with the business plan, which is the secondary part of this, which will be finalised in early October. But there has been focus groups with all the local mining companies, including the incoming ones with Cobalt Blue and Horsens and Lodestone, along with our healthcare sector. So that happened in early August, 2 days worth of full consultation across the industry. And that also included our local hotel accommodation providers and tourism providers as well. So we've been able to capture that full range with the business case part of it as well. So and we'll continue to take that feedback during the next 28 days. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And can I just say then, in leading up to the plans finalisation and then budgeting to that, we had some small things that could be done. We were looking at the bus to the airport to help with the taxi service. We haven't heard anything else from that. And I also had people concerned about the state of the airport garden at the moment, probably because of all the rain, but there's, you know, just trying to, while we've got this vision, in the meantime, we still have business happening. We still have full flights coming in. Can we get some feedback about what was happening to that bus service?
Unfortunately, a lot of those plans have fallen through. There was initial interest. What you'll find is these decisions are made on a commercial basis. So if there's no money in it, businesses just don't take them on. They would have looked at it and decided that it wasn't viable. There was several interested at one stage. So all have come back with the same view, obviously, that it's not viable or they're not interested anymore. Really important that where council can, they make sure, well, we help with the taxi service to keep them viable, but ultimately very difficult for a council or any public government to do much about when it's a private industry forte. Councillor Gallagher.
Yeah, just quickly, Mayor Kennedy, I commend this master plan. It's fantastic. And as people know, the airport is not just landing passengers to and from. It's a lot more viable than that. With this great plan we've got here, the master plan, it's a first step of getting cheaper aircrafts on there. And that will stop then. When we get more people in on our seats, more people into Broken Hill, that's when the taxi services can go again. And that's when we get a proper bus service to take these people out there. This is the first step to get a great thing going for the city of Broken Hill, which we muchly deserve.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Holgate.
Just make a comment, quick comment. I think the older the councillors that have served on for a long time will remember. I think this is the third airport master plan that I've seen, and there may have been more even. But on a quick perusal of this is probably the most professional document I've seen for a long time. I haven't read it all. I'd have to say that 140 odd pages, but it's got a lot of good stuff in there, and I think we'll reap the benefit of it in the long term.
Yes, for sure. So what this plan is designed to do is make not only improve the airport, to make the airport financially viable and continue to grow, include industrial areas. We have a shortage of industrial land, that's freehold land out there. Also, we've already had $10 million, which will start the project with the funding that we've got from the state and the federal government. The Royal Flying Doctors Health have been instrumental in being part of this design. Also, casual users or recreational users, really important to the airport and growing that facility. Ultimately, would like to see 737s land there. What we need to grow the city is those bigger jets, which will then reduce costs. Bonza, for example, $70 return, $70 each way trips to the Gold Coast and things like that. When we get those sorts of costs broken, it will open up. We will always be busy. we need to get those 737s before we get any major motel built here, multi-story motel. It's always been the airport, the big planes won't come unless we've got the accommodation or the big accommodation to house them. The big accommodation won't happen unless we have the airport. So the council's gone ahead and started to do this thing. What I would like to see, and if councillors agree to it, is that we have an additional report on making the airport federally or state significance. The Dubbo Council was trying to do it with $50 million upgrade to their services to house the fire service out there, so they'll be able to land the big jets there. That's a $50 million project. Ours would be 15 million because our runway is already wide enough, long enough. What we need is thicker so that it is strengthened. So you're looking at a 60 mil overlay of hot mix and potentially another 60 mil overlay. So we have everything we need. The fire service in the past, or the $8 million fire project, they have contacted council before about having the fire service out there. So this might be a good opportunity. So if councillors agree with that, we might be able to get something together with it. Yep. So yeah, I'll just add that. If the mover would be happy to add that too. Yep. Any other speakers? No. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 10 is the re-establishment of alcohol zones. We have a mover for that.
I'll move that way.
Seconder. Councillor Chandler. Move Councillor Gallagher, seconded Councillor Chandler. Speak there, Councillor Gallagher.
No, Mayor Kennedy, it's as I said, it's all in the reports, just the re-establishment of those areas.
One thing that I would like looked at, and it's been brought up a number of times, is at the Norm Fox, the actual area where the change rooms are. Can that be excluded? Yeah, look into it. So can we just defer that part of it, or you happy to defer that part?
Very happy to defer that.
Approve the others. Councillor Chandler, defer that part. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. So the other one is just deferred to get public consultation on that area, the clubhouse area itself. Item number 11, the minutes of the Broken Hill Heritage Committee. We have a mover for that. Councillor Turley, seconded. Councillor Brown. Councillor Turley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move these minutes, and can I congratulate our staff in delivering the 140th Broken Hill birthday celebrations. I think that the big winner there was certainly the laser light show. And, you know, a lot of work had gone into that for our staff, and I'd like to include a congratulations to them, and further invite all the councillors and staff to the Miners' Memorial Day on the 8th of October.
You happy to add that, Councillor
Yep,
Brown?
happy. Oh, sorry.
Yep. Any other speakers to it?
Sorry, I just had one more thing to say.
Yeah.
We still haven't had a visit from the museum advisor. And so it'd be good if the general manager could organise that as a matter of urgency.
It has been.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll be able to confirm when her next visit is tomorrow by email. We just renewed her contract with Create New South Wales only a matter of weeks ago. So we'll have those new dates through. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, it was really good in the park. People really liked it. One thing that did come through is that a lot of people didn't know about it. I don't know how we improved that. We did go out and advertise it wide and far, but a lot of people still, and it's like a lot of the things that are held, for some reason, people don't seem to know about them. So at some stage, we might have to look at a way to improve that.
Perhaps a marketing plan when you develop these events to complement the event itself.
Might have to happen, I think, because a lot more people would have went. had they known, and a lot of people that were there were driving past and had it and checked it out. So just one for us to keep in the future. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 6 is the local traffic committee meeting. Councillor Brown, moved. Councillor Brown, seconded. Councillor Allgate, Councillor Brown.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend this meeting as I was away, so I really, I've read the report, but I can't add anything to what's printed before us.
What was a really good one is that a response provided advising Uber services are permitted to park in loading zones and no parking areas for the purpose of drop off and pick up a passenger, loading or unloading items for less than 2 minutes, with drivers remaining within 3 meters of the vehicle. That was a really important one for them, but also for taxis, because really, really important. So well done to the traffic committee. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 13 is the action list report. We have a mover, Councillor Gallagher.
Just move that way.
Seconded. Councillor Jewett, Councillor Gallagher.
Yeah, that's what I always say. Yeah, the council used to do this all the time. A lot suited more green, but it's good to see it's coming.
Good one. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Questions taken on notice. Questions from councillors taken on notice from the July and August meetings. We have a mover for those. Move, Councillor Brown. Seconded, Councillor Allgate. Councillor Brown, speak to that.
Yes, happy to move it, but I just had a further question about the question that I asked about the club grants. Just having read which is I recall the discussion at the last meeting, but I got the impression from what was said at the last meeting that the local committees were not able to disperse any of the funds, but I couldn't see any reference to that in the document that was attached to that response. Maybe I haven't read the right part of it, but it seemed to me from reading that there are still local committees and they will still have a role in distributing some of those funds, which wasn't, the impression that I got last time.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just declare a non-pecuniary interest as secretary manager of a club.
It's not a decision being made, Councillor Boland.
Beautiful. I'll leave it at that. I can answer that question
Yeah,
that Councillor Brown. Councillor Brown asked. I keep looking at name plate and it's back to front with Councillor Turley. The changes have been made for the club grants year commencing 1st of September 2023, that 75% of category 1 funding must be approved by local club grants committee, and the local club category 1 club grants committee must have a charter as well. And it also will now exclude elected officials from voting rights. So myself and Councillor Gallagher will only be able to remain on that committee as observers, similar to the traffic committee, but it has now been tidied up that 75, it's under point 2.1.6, the inclusion of requirement that 75% of category 1 funds must be allocated in accordance with local committee recommendations. If the club does not meet this requirement, they must submit a report to LG New South Wales, or Liquor and Gaming New South Wales, not to get confused with the other one, within 45 days, detailing the reasons why the requirement has not been met. And then the further point is 6.5, which is a requirement to adopt a local committee charter, new requirement. And I believe that councils that conduct the club grants committee, further correspondence will be available shortly. And there is also the Roots and Branch review of the club grants currently waiting on the terms of reference for that. So they may be waiting for the terms of reference to forward further information to council.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Councillor Brown, that.
Yeah, so that that means that the comment that was made at the last meeting that all the decisions were going to be made in Sydney with local funds is not.
No, that's that hasn't been brought in yet. That was a proposal. The terms of reference of that hasn't happened.
Yeah, but I understood that that was a change that was happening. It's all right. It's
Yeah.
not a big deal, but it's not quite the impression that I got at the last.
No worries. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Questions for the next meeting arising from items or in general? Questions?
Do I
No,
have-
no questions?
do I have-
Oh,
okay,
councillor Jewett, yeah.
Just in relation to the childcare, obviously it's imperative we get that ratio, educated child ratio, reinstated to 1.15. Do we know of any other areas or jurisdictions that have successfully had something at this stage?
No. So it was withdrawn
no.
in 2013 or so, which they increased that. That was to make sure that it was a better level of education for the individual children. That's virtually what's been said. What the problem is that's resulted in not being able to have as many children for the one educator, which then reduces
Yeah,
your numbers. So
If anyone has been successful
no.
at this stage.
No. No, so what they can do, so if there's a position that happens out of the blue where you've got families and, for example, one educator goes on maternity leave, they can be picked up from the different. So for a short period of time, you can have an exemption to the 1 to 4 rule,
Yeah.
but it can't be a permanent thing.
Thank you.
All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We go to public forum session. The second public forum session of 15 minutes duration will consider submissions from the public regarding matters that were considered by council at this meeting only. 2 minutes allocated for each address to council. Do we have anyone from the gallery to address the council? No. We move on to confidential matters. There's 3 confidential matters in the report. So just for the public, it won't take long to go through. Can we have a motion to go into closed session? Move councillor Brown's Turley, seconded councillor Brown. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. The general manager would like to read out the recommendations, read out the resolutions made during closed session.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. Confidential item one, Broken Hill City Council Report number 194/23. Council resolved one, the Broken Hill City Council Report number 194/23 dated September 13, 2023 be received. Two, that council authorise the general manager to draw up a license agreement with the preferred applicant to operate the kiosk at the Broken Hill Airport. Three, that the license be for 12 months. Four, that the license fee be a fee of 2,200, including GST for the first 12 months. Five, that the general manager be authorised to negotiate further terms and conditions in conjunction with council's property manager. And six, that the mayor and general manager be authorised to sign and execute any licence documents under the common seal of council. Confidential item two, Broken Hill City Council Report number 170/23. Council resolved one, that Broken Hill City Council Report number 170/23 dated August 29, 2023 be received. Two, the council issue a 6-month licence for the use of 100 Sulphur Street, Crown Reserve 1003026, lot 702 in DP 1096296 with the purpose of sporting and organised recreational activities. Three, that the rent be set at the Crown Lands minimum rental, currently $579 per annum, and be calculated on a pro rata basis. Four, that the licence is able to be renewed for a further 6 months should the agreement continue to suit all parties. Five, that the mayor and general manager be authorised to sign and execute any licence documents under the common seal of council. And confidential item three, Broken Hill City Council Report number 171/23. Proposed licence to Cars Connection Proprietary Limited. Council resolved one, the Broken Hill City Council Report number 171/23 dated September 5, 2023 be received. Two, the council grants a new licence to Cars Connection Proprietary Limited for use of a car hire counter and parking spaces at the Broken Hill Airport Terminal. Three, that the licence term be for 5 years. Four, that the licence fee be based on a market rent and adjusted by 3% each year. Five, that the mayor and general manager be authorised to sign and execute the licence under the common seal of council. Supplementary confidential item, item one, tender report T23/42, supply and install of amenities block, Duke of Cornwall's Park. Council resolved one, that Broken Hill City Council tender report number 2/23 dated September 22, 2023 be received. And two, that Broken Hill City Council award tender T23/42 to ASCO Group Australia Proprietary Limited for the purchase installation of amenities block and site works at the Duke of Cornwall Park for the total price of $268,633.48, including GST. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. That brings the meeting to a close. Thank you, everyone. Right. Leon.